Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second installment of the Truckers News Celebrity Series. I'm Randy Grider, editor of Truckers News, and I'll be your host tonight. It is a great privilege to introduce our guest for tonight for the Celebrity Series, Robb Mariani. Robb is the star, executive producer of the American Trucker TV show, which is in its second season on the Speed Channel. Before we get started, we'd like to take a moment and thank our terrific sponsor, 5-Hour Energy, for making this series possible. And to our audience, thank you for participating with us tonight. Make sure you've clicked the play button to participate in the live chat. When you ask questions, give us your first name and your city so that we can give you a shout out. Robb, good evening and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Randy.
Well, kind of catch us up, Robb. We know that you have just finished up the filming, I think, for the second season. We've got an episode or two still to go, and just kind of bring us up to date on where we're at.
That's true. We have wrapped the filming for season 2. We've got a couple of shows left. I think we're going to run the show into November. I know we got some cool ones coming up. I think there's 2 or 3. I'm not totally sure. I'm a little turned around, Randy. I travel quite a bit. But for the most part, it's done. Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead, Robb.
I was going to say, for the most part, we're all done with season 2, but we're crossing our fingers on season 3, see what happens, from the Speed Channel, see what they say.
Right. Well, that was a question that Steve Bixler, I know you remember him. You and I met him, or I introduced you to him out at GATS, a member of our Great American Trucking family. He wanted to know what the news was on the next coming, or the upcoming season. So thanks for the update on that. We're going to kind of just jump into some more questions right quick, Robb. I know a lot of people want to know more about you. We got Jim, and I don't know where he's from, but he's wanting to know if you've had a chance to meet Greg Evigan, BJ and the Bear, Frank Converse of Moving On, or J. Michael Vincent, White Line Fever.
All right, I'll start in the last first. Jan Michael Vincent, that would be somebody I'm definitely aspiring to meet. I know the guy has had some health problems and some substance abuse over the years, but I don't care because to me he's always going to be Carol Joe Hummer. I know that I think the rumor was that he's living in Missouri. I think it's Jim that asked that question. So Jim, if you can look him up for me, hit me up on email, let me know where his address is. I'd be more than happy to knock on his door. But for now, I haven't met him. But I do invite him into my family room quite a bit when I'm watching my VHS copy of White Line Fever. Let's see.
He's want to know if you'd have these people on your show also, so that sounds like a definite, right?
I would love to. You have no idea. Actually, that's a funny thing. I did bring that up to my other executive producers during season 1 that I wouldn't mind, finding Jan Michael Vincent and sitting him down for an interview. So cross your fingers again. Let's see if that happens. But as far as the other guys, Greg Evigan, I almost got to shoot with Greg Evigan for our BJ and the Bear episode for season 1 that aired. But we had a little bit of a conflict with Greg. We couldn't come together. We had a date scheduled in L.A. Something fell through, but he was going to be on that show. Maybe he's watched the show since. Maybe he wants to sit down with Robb from American Trucker and all the rest of us truck nuts and talk about his awesome series. For now, I've got no plans to meet him in the future, except I'm wide open to that. And who else did we miss? Frank Converse?
Right.
Frank Converse, no, haven't met him. Rumor is that he's living in Florida. Again, these are just rumors, but you know me. I'm willing to flip over rocks and find people. I would love to talk to Frank, pick his brain, see if maybe he's watched a few episodes of American Trucker.
Now, I assume, Robb, that most people have tuned in tonight and kind of know your story. I know they watched the show, but while we're talking about White Line Fever, kind of give us a little background on why that's so special to you. I know you have a truck that you bought a few years ago that is the exact same model that was used in there. And kind of give us a little run through what's so special about that movie and the other trucking TV shows for you.
Yeah, easy. Well, let's see. It came out in 1975. I was only 7 years old, maybe, somewhere in there. And I had a large family that I've come from, and we were not, we didn't really go to the box office much, but the drive-in theater we could go to, and I knew that the movie was out, but I couldn't get the whole family to go to see White Line Fever at the drive-in theater. So I had to wait for another couple of years, and it finally hit the air on the Late Late Show. If you guys remember the Late Late Show, and when I saw it finally, it was just like dynamite went off in my brain. I absolutely had to be Carol Joe Hummer. When I grew up, I was telling my family and friends, and he drove, of course, the Blue Mule, aka 1974 Ford WT 9000 with a 350 Cummins 13-speed. So everything you could possibly imagine about the film just tripped all my truck triggers, and I love the movie still to this day. And of course, I had my Overdrive magazine where it was on the cover of the Independence issue with the truck jumping through the glass house. And then they did a huge Overdrive. You guys did an awesome job with a huge spread of the then $110,000 stunt. I could go on and on for the whole half hour if you want about White Line Fever. No.
Well, we appreciate the plug. As you know, Overdrive is our sister publication of Truckers News, and I know growing up, that's kind of how you got your start with kind of getting into the interest of trucking, right? Was just from reading that magazine.
Oh, without a doubt, Overdrive magazine really was the blood in my veins because my grandfathers were drivers and I was a kid. I didn't know what it was like I didn't know the first thing about getting a magazine subscription, let alone having the money to get it. But my grandfather did, Emil, God bless him, and he used to take the magazine, read it for an hour, and hand it off to me. So I basically had my own subscription, and that literally just compelled me. I would open up the pages, and I remember seeing ads for like, every kind of truck, Peterbilt class, and I would just have these visions of me someday owning one of these awesome rigs and hitting the road and becoming this, independent guy. And everything about the pages of Overdrive fueled the truck passion, which I still have to this day, undoubtedly.
And just take us a little bit further. We got quite a few questions coming in, but you didn't quite go into the driving the truck route. Kind of just catch us up to speed exactly how you went from that love of trucking to getting to the American Trucker Show.
You guys want like the quick Cliff Notes version?
Yeah, just kind of give us a brief synopsis of that, Rob.
All right. Well, I mean, I never lost my fervor for trucking, except maybe when I was about 14 and I discovered, girls, but that still, didn't totally take a backseat. I was an avid model builder. I would be building all these model kits. I would, read my Overdrive magazine, and I would keep up as much as you could back in the day. Now, you had the only thing you had was like long lead. You had a magazine that came out every month, and then there was no, with the exception of BJ and the Bear and some TV shows, there wasn't any internet or anything like that now, or smartphones or social media that you could tap into your passion. So you really had to do some digging. So I went into school and ended up as an art major in graphic design and spent a lot of years in the video game industry designing video games and animating video games for Sega and Atari and the like. And I loved all of that. I loved the creative outlet that it was. But I never, really parked my truck passion. And then when the internet came on in the late 90s, then that opened up Pandora's box for me. And then I just started going through my back catalog of what I wanted to look up or see what might have been out there or posted. And it ended up where I decided, with all my creative background, to write an intellectual property based as a TV program for trucking, or at least in the space of trucking, because there was no forum for trucking like I thought it should be covered in TV. And I spent a lot of years just kind of, honing the PowerPoints and things that I would write. And then I had pitched them to some people, had some real success in 2006. And before, like Ice Road Truckers, or before Trick My Truck was going on, I was out there pitching the show. And I almost got it done. And then some guys tried to steal it kind of at the last minute, and it kind of went south. And then ultimately I fell back onto my design background. In 2007, I sort of auditioned my portfolio for HGTV under the pressure of friends and family to submit my portfolio works from interior design to the network, because they had a contest that if you were accepted, you would be one of the chosen 10 cast, and you would all compete week in, week out to ultimately win the prize, which would be your own show on the network on HGTV. And I was selected out of over 4,000 people, and I thought, okay, that's cool. And I went to the casting call in Los Angeles, and they liked me, and they thought, well, let me get this straight. You're straight. You do interior design, and you have a cab over big rig, which is all true. And then they freaked out and said, oh, you're a freak. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I went on the show wearing all my vintage Roach t-shirts and Diesel Power and everything that you guys know me on this show. That's who I was. That's who I am. And did really well on the show. Got to design Wayne Newton's kitchen on national TV. It was pretty cool. And then when I got off of that show, I met an executive producer named Steve Beebe, who's a very good friend of mine. He's also the other executive producer that you see on the show every week. He's also the man that edits American Trucker. He met me and he said, Rob, I don't know anything about trucks. Trucks are cool. You're the show. And I said, no, I think you're insane. I am just the guy that, has the knowledge base that I think we could create a great show. And from there, it took 2 years of Steve and I on our own time and dime to go around the country. I would kind of lead Steve in the direction and do all the pre-production where we could film, kind of introduced him into the world of trucking. And we built up what you'd call a teaser role in TV land. And then from there, I met the other executive producer, Bud Brutzman, who had a lot of relationships at the networks. And then Bud, Steve, and Rob kind of joined forces. And then we ultimately were soliciting our teaser role. And a lot of the networks liked us, including Speed. And then finally, they pulled the trigger on us and said, hey, we want to go with the show, kind of with their blinders on, more or less, because they didn't really know what we could do with the show. But that's how the show got off the ground, and I have literally been like a madman ever since.
All right. That's kind of an interesting way from the interior design into trucking. That's probably not many people can have that story, Rob.
Well, you know what, though? Here's another little important piece to that, Randy, and whoever wrote into that question, with that question. I would be when I was on HGTV and I was doing the interior design stuff, that's kind of the hoity-toity world of designer bags and product clothes and all that stuff, and I'm the most non-pretentious guy in the world. So I would do my media with radio and TV interviews, and people would say to me, almost condescendingly, hey, so Rob, what's up with the trucks? And you're on Design Star. And I would just look at them and say, well, I don't know any interior designer that can possibly claim to be one without drywall or studs or screws or paint, let alone furniture and pictures. So you're all beholden to the American truck driver and the industry for that matter. So I would kind of shut them up cold, and then they'd kind of think about it and say, God, I think you're right on that. So it's never, there's a parallel. It doesn't matter what your vocation, truckers drive our nation.
Preach that message as well as the truckers all the time. And that kind of answered a question. It's from, let me see, it was from Massachusetts. Somebody was wanting to know how you got into your career, but they want to know if they can do what you do for a living.
You mean host a show?
I think you've got that one sewn up. Hey, Steve was asking, getting back to the trucks, he said he wants to know what draws you to the old cab overs, and I know Steve personally, and I know he's got, I think it's a 1989 Freightliner cab over. Is it just an old school thing, or is it just what you said, you grew up with so many of those famous trucks?
I'd like to give a shout out to Steve Bixler. He's doing frack mining right now, frack hauling. Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, it's pretty easy, because when I was a little kid and I was on the interstates with my parents' motorhome, and we were out touring all over the United States, I'd be looking out the back windows at the trucks that we'd be passing or the trucks that would pass us. And then, of course, we'd pull into every Union 76 truck stop there was. And the majority of the trucks on the road pre-deregulation were cab overs here, at least on the East Coast. So that's really what caught my eye the most. I mean, I love conventionals, but I just really got a penchant for cab overs, because when I'd go into these truck stops or look through Overdrive for that matter, you would see a myriad of different manufacturers. I mean, you'd have GMC Cracker Box, and you can have that parked next to a Ford W1000 or, a Freightliner or a K100, or a Peterbilt 352 Pacemaker. Any of those trucks, all of them had such unique looking style and shape to them, whether they were ugly or not, or aerodynamic or not. It didn't matter. They just had personality. and that variety kind of was ingrained into my brain at an early age, and I just love cab overs, especially since they were earmarked for death after the deregulation days, and they're so gone now. I mean, look at them now. I think the only one really making them is Freightliner making the Argosy for, I think, Australian application or off-road. So, there's only maybe two that are even making them now. So they are effectively dinosaurs.
Yeah, Caterpillar is going to come back. They just announced a global truck. It'll be a cab over, but we may not. Don't know if we'll see that here yet or not.
Who is that?
We got Hubert from Ludlow, Mass. He's wondering if American Trucker is going to be filming in his home state or maybe Connecticut or somewhere up in the New England area.
Well, you got to email me some story ideas and get me to come on up there. It's not a problem, as you guys know from watching the show. I've been all over, and I have a long list of states that we've shot in, and I personally would like to shoot in every one of the states. So East Coast, I'm coming your way, man. Look out. We get season 3. We're there.
That's job security, Rob. Tell them you've got to do one show in each state. That's the way to
think we got it.
Go about it, maybe.
Good point.
Hey, Barbara wants to know what you're going to do for a living once American Trucker is over.
I'm going to work at a fuel island pumping diesel.
Really?
I don't know. It's going to involve trucks. I have no idea. I wouldn't mind doing something in this industry. I love the industry. Perhaps I can affiliate myself as a brand ambassador here. You never know. I'm wide open. That my passion's behind it, so I'm thinking it has something to do with big rigs. But look out, because when American Trucker eventually falls off the air, like most TV shows do, hopefully in about 8 seasons, I'm not done by a long shot. I've got other ideas about truck shows, so I am an executive producer. Look out.
Sounds good. Hey, Marvin wants to know when you're going to do a show about CB radios and trucks.
Marvin, it's a great point to bring up. I love CB radios. They are forever attached to the trucking industry, the golden era at least, and they're of course still there today. The coolest one, I'll give you a quick little side note. When we were doing our episode with Rockin' Down the Highway, when I went on tour with Big Mike and Robert Plant, Big Mike had the coolest CB. It was a Cobra CB with a Bluetooth feature, and that was so awesome. You could get telephone calls in the cab coming through all your speakers without taking your hand off the shifter or the wheel if you wanted, or you can also elect to talk into the mic. That was the coolest thing ever. So the CB radio is something that we've talked about on the show. It's just a matter of how much content we can deliver and how much I can arm wrestle Speed Channel into letting me do a whole episode on something like that, because I have to listen to what they say. They are the boss ultimately.
Right, and that would be awesome. Everybody remembers the CB craze in the 70s and all the CB lingo that was vogue for a while that's kind of died out.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got another question. I know you were on Fox News this past week, and the question sort of goes along those lines. We got Jim from Pittsburgh who wants to know if you've talked with any politicians about the state of the American Trucker. And I don't think they're talking about your TV show. And what have they said back to you?
Well, what was the gentleman's name that had that question?
This is Jim from Pittsburgh.
Jim, awesome question out there. Ironically, when I was in New York on Fox and Friends, Michelle Bachmann was one of the guests, and I was in the green room, and I had an opportunity to meet with her, and I started talking to her intently about the industry and the show, and she really, 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 I got her attention fast. She said that a large group of her voting supporters or constituents that she deals with are in the trucking industry, and that she wants to champion and be the voice for you guys. And I started telling her all kinds of the realities, like the DEF, emissions problem that everybody's facing with additional costs for $1.70 for the DEF fluid, and does it work, and all the mechanical issues, and Navistar is now suing the government because of their new findings, and all of the problems and the plight that all you truck drivers face and the industry faces. I kind of gave her an earful, and she really, really was listening. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm going to pay attention tomorrow night. I think there's a debate in Las Vegas. I want to pay attention to see if she brings up anything to do with the truck drivers based on our conversation. But, Jim, great question. Any politician I can get, I'm going to bend their ear.
Right. We got JT from Frankfurt, and I think that's Kentucky, not Germany. And he sort of asked a similar question. What are you going to do a show on the average trucker and what it's really like out there dealing with dispatchers, shippers, receivers, and having to deal with the DOT? So I guess just kind of a look at the average guy.
Again, I appreciate the question. I think it's a great question. What you guys don't, well, if you pay attention to the show, I bring up these various little the realities that you guys face, like some of the questions that he was posing all the time. It's just a matter of what they edit out. You know, our show is only 30 minutes. We shoot a lot of hours, like at least 15 hours for a 30-minute show, which is then edited for commercials. So a lot of it gets cut. Like on our independent episode with Brad Wyke, I think that I was trying to cover exactly those types of problems that you guys face. Now, we didn't get to a point where we were dealing with lumpers and things, but I talk about it all the time on the show. And I'm only hoping that if we get season 3, that they're going to let me dive into a lot more of the details of those types of problems. And again, the shortcomings and the problems and the plight that you guys face. I definitely am out there championing it for you guys. It's just a matter of how much of the footage didn't make the show.
We've got Big Al. I don't know where Big Al's from, but he's asked, when do you, and maybe it's do you, but when do you see regulation return into the industry? And, you know, of course, everybody knows the federal government deregulated the trucking industry in the late 80s.
1980.
And just wondering, do you see that coming back? Or?
Jeez, I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, there right now, unfortunately, I'm kind of looking at it, and this is just my personal opinion, is that it looks to me like if the government would have their way, they would settle for 4 big national carriers. And I mean, they're trying to put everybody, the small guy, out of business, it seems, on a daily basis. So I have no idea. I can only hope that there's going to be some changes at the government level to wake these people up, because every single one of us, whether you're into trucks or not, you're beholden to the American trucking industry and the American trucker. So they better not squeeze it too hard, or we're going to find ourselves in dire straits.
Okay, I appreciate it. We have got Jim again from Pittsburgh. He wants to know when American Trucker is going to come out on DVD.
Jim, I think you can go to Amazon.com and pick it up right now. I know you can go get it on iTunes, and I'm pretty sure you can go on to SpeedTV.com, go to their store, and buy it as well. Seasons 1 and Season 2. Will be a great Christmas gift for all of those soon-to-be truck fanatics in your family.
Christmas time coming up. Jed from somewhere out there on the road in the U.S. wants to know if you thought about doing an American Trucker movie.
Wow, that sounds cool. I'm wide open for ideas. Although we have a lot of things that we've done that we could probably make a movie out of, guaranteed. Great idea. Again, I'm not exactly sure what the future holds, but I could definitely see myself aligning myself in the direction of a full feature film about big rigs. Doesn't necessarily need to be fiction, but I'd be open to fiction and or reality. So look for it.
Okay. Hubert again from Ludlow, Mass. wants to know, why not do a 1-hour show of American trucker like the Afro Trucker has?
Oh, what was that gentleman's name?
That's Hubert.
Hubert. Oh, man, boss, you got it right there. All of us, we are always asking each other, crew, like when we're out filming, we're on location, and everybody that we film with in the industry, they're all asking the same thing. Why isn't this an hour show? I'm asking why it's not an hour show, because of all the work that I put into it that doesn't make the show, which, I mean, just the outtakes or some of the other footage that we ultimately have no choice but to cut it down is really frustrating. I really believe that it would be a great 1-hour show. Again, it's not up to me. It's up to the network. I don't know what their model is with it being a 30-minute show, but it is. And I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to give them the best 30-minute content that I can possibly give them. And maybe they'll pick us up for another season or 2 here and let us run wild with an hour's, show. Never know.
Sounds great. Hey, Linda from Las Cruces, New Mexico wants to know, are you married?
Hi, Linda from Las Cruces. No, I'm not married. I do have a steady girlfriend. She's great.
Sorry, Linda. Ricky in from, but he wants to know what's the favorite episode that you've done so far.
Well, honestly, I mean, I've done so many fun ones. I mean, they're all fun. There's a lot of them. I mean, Downer Pass wasn't fun, but I mean, I throw myself into every show, as you guys, I hope, can tell. But right off the top, I'm going to say Brad Wyke and the Independent episode because, A, I got to drive around the Smokey and the Bandit truck and trailer. I got to drive around that awesome 73 white Freightliner cab over. Love that. And, of course, the dual truck. I got to drive that. I only could grab about 3 gears in it because it's the hardest truck in the world to drive. Brad even says so. Definitely Brad Wyke's Independent episode.
That's awesome. I saw that episode. It was really good. And we thank you for coming out to the Great American Trucking Show and doing that show as a guest, judging. I guess that was a new twist, something you haven't done, being around all the really nice-looking trucks. The first time you've been put on the spot to actually judge these incredible trucks.
Randy, it's a great point. Again, I said it's very hard to pick. You know, we've done like 26 episodes here, but that is first. Thanks again to Randall Riley. You guys are awesome. And I thought that the GAT show was absolutely awesome. A whole different energy for me as far as shows, being in that environment and being a judge of the Pride and Polish was my honor and privilege. And I think Neil and Scotty, they all gave me the nod and said that I wasn't some poser judge. They actually asked me to judge in the future, and that is something that I would, maybe that'll be my new career. I can be a professional truck judge. So I sure enjoy doing that and look forward to any opportunity to do it again in the future.
Okay, we've got time for just a couple more questions. Donna from Beesville, Texas wants to know if you ever thought about getting into customizing, and I'm sure she's talking about customizing trucks.
Yes, Donna it was? Was that Donna? Donna. Very good question, and this is the thing. I'm a hot rod guy from way back. I mean, I started off with a 57 Chevy when I was a kid. I had a 49 Ford with a shoebox with a flathead V8 in it, and I'm a hot rod guy. And I love customizing hot rod anything, including the big rigs. Now, I'm torn because when it comes down to anything vintage, as long as somebody is taking a vintage truck and if they're customizing it, they're still saving it from a scrapyard, and that's fine by me. I prefer the way that Brad Wyke likes to do it as well, and that is to preserve them with all of their integrity like they were back in the day when I remember seeing them on the interstates, you know, hauling America one load at a time. But I'm not opposed to customizing. I've been getting lobbied, in fact, by a lot of guys to customize my Ford to a certain extent, and I said, you never know. I mean, there's a lot of awesome fans, and you know you're out there. I love every one of you guys that have hit me up on Facebook, and I'm the worst guy on Facebook because my administrator screwed up the passwords, and I don't know how to get back on anymore. But they've all hit me up with
yeah. Along those lines, Jason, who's from everywhere, wanted to know what the latest is on your truck. I know it was in that one that first season. You talked about your own personal truck, the Ford, to the Blue Mule sister, and what's the latest on its condition, and when are we going to see it out there?
I got a steering box put in it. We changed the batteries from 6 volt to 12 volt. We did replace a bunch of lines in it. We got, of course, the thing runs like a champ. It was on my Finding Evil episode. I was tooling around in it, and then right when I parked it, you could see me getting out on the camera. I was sweating to death because I lost a power steering line on the way in. So it needs a couple of things. It needs some body work. Where I had the big Kaiser unit on the top, you know, and it's a steel cab. They're notorious for rotting out where the lines go in. You know, where they put the bolts into the cab. So I need some body work on it. But it's out there. I need a front wheel bearing. Just some odd things that Lou Bailey, my buddy at Bill's, and of course Bill himself at Bill's Truck Service. They're awesome. They're helping me out whenever I can get over there and work on it with his two sons.
Right.
So it's pretty
down
cool.
In Florida where you live, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So your truck's down in Central Florida where you live?
Yep, it's in Central Florida right now.
All right. We've got quite a few other questions we're not going to have time for. Can you give them a way that they can contact you, Rob, whether it's Facebook or, we've got some other questions about who do they write to get some support for the show, taking it to an hour, taking it to next season. Just kind of give us some way that your fans out there can communicate with you on
You
things like that and other questions.
You can go to Rob. You can send me an email at robbmariani@gmail.com, or go on to robbmariani.com. That's robbmariani.com. All kinds of information on the show, cool stuff. You can send me anything on Twitter. Robb Mariani, I think, is at Twitter, and or Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but I don't know what's happening with Facebook because I've got about 4 identities on Facebook and don't know the passwords.
Well, they'll just need to join all of them, Rob. Hey, Rob, again, I want to thank you for talking to us tonight, and I want to thank the audience for sending us your questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but maybe Rob will help you out there if you go to the email that he sent you or onto his Facebook. We'd like to take one more moment to thank our sponsor, 5 Hour Energy, for making this celebrity series possible. We'd like to invite all of you to come back November the 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern when Dave Redmond, the former star of Ice Road Truckers and Most Dangerous Roads on the History Channel, will join us for the 3rd installment of the Truckers News Celebrity Series. Good night, everyone. Good night, Rob, and thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Safe miles.